get a nice way. I think there's nothing wrong, right, where a couple of people come together to buy their first house. They do it very well in the UK. You say there's a 30 million naira, for example, Lekki Ags is fair enough. Why can't, if you can reach 10 million, if you can get a facility for 10 million naira, why can't you buy with somebody else? As you guys get richer and older, you can as well then sell at the present value and get something bigger. Everybody can go their separate ways. Do we all have to buy our own units? Right. I'm also aware now that a lot of 1 bed and 2 bed are coming up. But again, but even at that, we're trying to give a facility to somebody that works in government, director level. We cannot give him a facility of even 10 million naira. You know why? Because his cash flow does not carry it. So as a director getting less than 200,000 naira per month, you're just not eligible most of the time. So if you look at the core mortgage industry in Nigeria, we don't give and that's why it's 0.7% of GDP. Mortgage is 0.7% of GDP. Some say it's even 0.6. Some analysis says 0.5. Is the lowest. Is one of the lowest in the world and the lowest in Africa. Right? Even Rwanda has a better case. So what that means is that most people cannot just get a mortgage. So if you're working in government, if you're working for a one-man business, if you're working for small companies, you just can't get a mortgage, no matter how much you try in this part of the world. And that's why I'm in support of people coming together to jointly own these assets. At least for starters, there are some point in the future, you can always, downsize or resell or something at the present value. Yeah, let me just take a break and allow my colleagues say one or two other things. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. That was very insightful. I like the point you made about creating financial models, because that is where the issue is, access to these funds. Tunde, do you have anything to add?
He's very, very spot on with all the things he shared. Well done, Mr. Oshodi. The truth is that we just have to continue to look for ways to practice things. The problems are so much in this part of the world. It's in our face on a daily basis. But the big question is, are we just going to sit around and watch, and hope that Messiah will come one day to come and solve our problem? Of course not. We all have to think creatively, think innovatively, and see how we can solve this problem. So the financial model is one angle to that we can. I think a lot of innovation can come into that space to be able to start tackling the problem. And one way we are doing that at Buy to Let also is with the guaranteed rent that we are partnering with mortgage banks. We have some already that we have onboarded, including Home Base. And the financial model we've created is that whatever mortgage you are getting, we've negotiated and all of. We make sure that it's at close to not a double digit, which is not common in this part of the world. He's very right. Mortgage in Nigeria is less than 1%. It's one of the lowest in the world. So what the model we've introduced is the property. There's a guaranteed rent that comes from the property. It services the repayments of the mortgage. Should it not be enough to service the repayment, which in most cases it won't be, then the buyer will contribute some additional cash to it. That in itself is not the ideal solution, but it's starting from somewhere. In other parts of the world, you only need to drop 10%, 15% down payments, and then the bank will take the rest, or the mortgage institution will take the rest. And if it is you are buying the house as an investment, most of the time your rent will be adequate to service the mortgage. But we are taking one step at a time, or more than one step, as the case may be for us at Buy to Let. But with this financial model, we are seeing increase in adoption. We have people that are also buying outrightly. They get the money from wherever they got the money from, but the attraction to them is that the rent that Rentsmalsmall is giving is appealing or attractive enough, and is not just hopeful rent. It's guaranteed rent. which they can't get anywhere else.
I have a question for both of you. I beg your pardon. I have a question for both of you. Like, I want to take away from this session to be that any young person listening can have a roadmap to how to go about getting his or her own place from a financial standpoint and from a real estate standpoint with Tunde Balogun. So can you just shed like tips on how a young person in Lagos, the regular average Lagosian that is hustling, salary earner, maybe you, Basheer mentioned something about the income brackets as well. And of course, that would factor into people's ability to own a house or to rent a house. So could you just share a brief roadmap on how the average Lagosians can go about just investing in real estate in the current climate?
Okay, I'll let Mr. Oshodi go first, and then I'll...
Okay, thanks. So basically, looking at what we need to do to solve this problem, right? If I get a question very right. For me, the two, I'm still going to be looking at it from two major angles. Right now, there are about 4 or 5 private sukuk coming up anytime this month, next month in the market. All real estate sukuk, all of them, all real estate. However, of course, the pricing, the coupon return, if you like, on these on these bonds, if you like, they are at the digit or at the price lower than the rate of inflation, right? Now, so the other option is where would investors rather put in their money? They don't want to put it in real estate or put it elsewhere. Now, because in the case of real estate, the asset is always there. It's not going to run away, even if they don't pay back. At least it's there. So you can use it as a collateral, which is good. The perfect collateral, it shows that supply will increase, right? So what then the kind of switch we need is to start to go affordable as much as possible. And for us to go affordable, we need to change the financial model. Right. Again, I'm getting to your question. The financial model needs to change. My solution to that financial model is a perpetual sukuk model. What a perpetual sukuk means? A perpetual sukuk is a kind of sukuk where rather than debt, into an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, into a company, you are putting equity in it instead. Right. So you are putting equity in the company. Yeah, Mudaraba, Musharaka, or Wakala. Wakala is not equity or debt, but it has the features of equity to a very large extent. So you're trading a lot of equity, is like tier 1 capital, Now when you put in, it's borderless, it's tenorless, like there's no tenure. So what that means is that, you don't have to invest for 1 year or 7 years or so. When you put money in that bracket or into that portfolio, that SPV, the money can then be used for the purpose of such. Whereby, of course, we want to believe that the government will extend the VAT, the tax bits, the tax exemption for sukuk, we can reduce it. Because now, if you can reduce cost of fund using a partnership model of funds, so the fund coming in it is not under pressure, under payback pressure, which comes in the form of capital. It will give you a lot of cash in the space, right? When you have the cash, that's on the one hand. On the other hand, you then need to also get if you like, social kind of subsidy, land subsidy specifically in certain areas, whereby the guy you're partnering with, whether it's government or it's an individual or a company, is able and willing to allow that property to be used for, affordable housing. Now, again, when you talk about affordable, you don't have to necessarily make everything to be affordable. So out of 3 hectares, you can as well say, okay, 1.5 hectares will be affordable, the remaining 1.5 hectares will be sold in the market so I can make money. Now, that way, it can improve not just supply, but supply that the lower income or the young guys can actually buy. When you do that, it's going to be helpful. Now, again, going back to the perpetual sukuk thing, it means that if I put in whatever money in a particular portfolio, I can exit. I can sell some kind of put option, right? I can sell my equity in that portfolio in the future. I can say, okay, you know what? I put in 100,000 naira for 3 years. I want to sell it. Maybe the price of that company at that time is going to be going for 300. So you make your money when you get out, from that investment. Another person puts in money, family also puts in money, Shadow Africa puts in money, Federal Mortgage Bank puts in money, You know, anybody can put in money. Lagos State government puts in money from time to time, but the money comes in the form of equity. Now, when you have cheap source of cash flow entering into such a portfolio, it then reduces construction costs and it puts less pressure on the owner or the organizer, if you like, the issuer of that bond or that sukuk, as the case may be. It puts less pressure on them, you know, to meet up repayment issues. And so that then takes me to repayment risk. A major part of real estate finance, which of course affects demand. You know, yeah, there's demand, but yes, on the supply side, you have to create. For you to create, you need to a very large extent, create the right kind of properties. Now, the repayment risk here is, yes, you've got the money. Yes, you have built, you know, but you have built, rather than built for 1 year, you have built for 24 months, you know, and they have to pay, either it's markup, whether it's interest, as the case may be, you still have to pay something as high, you know, over time. Now, if you're under pressure to pay back, it then means that you don't have a choice but to increase the value of the property. You know, for example, there's another lockdown, you know, and people don't take, and there's a void in the system, in the financial system, there's a void. When you have that kind of void, it means that property prices will go up. And when they go up, you're also going to be under pressure. So how are you going to meet up with these rates that is rising? You know, because if an investor puts in money in a financial institution and wants his or her interest or profits or markup, as the case may be, per annum, it then means that on the loan side, on the facility side, you know, the thing will also be per annum. So if you lose 8 months doing nothing, you're going to be under a lot of pressure. Yeah. So for me, it's not about just increasing the supply. I mean, if you go to the back of Lekki now, they're filling up the entire water there. I know 3-4 developers filling up the land. It's going to be bigger than Lekki. So there will be supply. Ikoyi, a lot of empty houses, in Abuja, a lot of empty houses. There will always be supply. But how do you create supply for those at the middle? And of course, the age bracket is required. So again, if you can slash your cost of funds drastically, you know, in a manner that is convenient, that does not put you under pressure, it's going to be very helpful. And that's why I think that, of course, you can also get the right partners to do JV with. I mean, amazingly, they do some of these things that we do already, but they have a lot more land. It can also help. So you have the right guys that are saying, you know what, I'm happy to do this with you. So, for example, if you have a parcel of land and, you know, like I said, you can split it. Half of it, you know, affordable. The remaining half can be expensive. So you can balance up your portability. Because, again, as an investor, why am I so crazy about real estate? Why do I want to put my money in real estate when I can put it elsewhere and get guaranteed return? Anyway, you know, why am I so crazy about it? You know, do I want to put my money in oil and gas and make my money every 45 days? Or do I want to put it that same amount in real estate and wait for 1 year? At the end of 1 year, the return may not even come. So those are the realities. And I think that to a very large extent, there are a lot of programs there and there to see how we can address this practically as much as possible. But for me, I think those are the two major kind of, if you like, subsidy. You know, subsidy in terms of the cost of the fund and subsidy in terms of the land that you're using to do that kind of deal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Thank you. Tunde, over to you, please. And then hopefully we can take a few questions, if any.
Okay, so again, Mr. Oshodi is very important. Cost of funding is one of the challenge in venturing or diving into real estate at a large scale in Nigeria, because we are in a climb or in a space where a lot, it's almost like you are fighting demons. Yeah, a lot is against you, and for you to be able to pretty much, fight all of the factors, economic factors in your face, essentially, beginning of a selling over the same way expecting a different result. I think we need to do things different. I see and which of Mr. Oshodi said it. I think what we could watch you have, companies, SPVs, even in these countries we call developed commercial system, there are startups into the man market with innovation allow.
Oh, he has dropped off.
Okay, no, that's fine. Let me just, I think I guess it's just quite bad. Okay, so do you, is there another question, or do you want me to just?
Okay, he's back.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what happened. So as I was saying, we need to find ways to start with what we have. And I was citing an example of some companies that, in the US, startups in the US that allow people to, that run portfolio, kind of investment, and some crowdfunding type of investment that people can all put whatever they have into the basket, and then they use the money to develop properties at low cost, put it out there for people to rent or buy, again making sure that the cost is properly managed, and then the investors can hold their investment for a period of time. You can hold it for a year. There's a certain return that they promise, depending on the hold period, but they promote long-term hold period, and you get compensated based on how much or the longevity of you holding that investment. So what that means is that you're not taking funds from the sharks out there, like the banks, and they're like, yeah, they're all out to make money, but the truth is that they are sharks, yeah. But starting with what we have means that, buy to let, we've looked at that model of creating investment, where people, you have 100,000, you have 50,000, you have we pull all this investment. The developers that we sign up already, work with them, make sure that whatever they are developing is specific to the model that we've created, the affordability that we've planned, and they don't go beyond all of that. So that's something we are looking at, but maybe in another year or two, depending on how we have to study we don't want to go against the policy that guides crowdfunding and these kind of things, because there's what's it called? I'm trying to remember the body that is in charge, the government body that is in charge of. I can't hear you.
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yes. So So our lawyers are doing all their study to make sure that if we are ready to roll out with this, then we are doing it the right way. That's my contribution.
All right. Thank you so much. If we have any questions from the audience, you can raise your hands, and then our panelists would answer them. Does anyone have any questions for them? Because we have hit the 1 hour mark, and if there are no questions, I would like to say a big thank you to Basheer and Tunde for this very insightful session. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your perspective with us. Thank you for sharing the expertise you have in your respective fields with us, so that we can go away with a few nuggets that would help us in future when we're considering real estate investments. Thank you, everyone that joined. And we have another session coming up next week, Tuesday. We have a different set of speakers, an interesting topic. And I hope you all have a good day. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sure, pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.